Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case, focusing in on an important map analysis combining what private investigator Kathy Bingham said in the past on an audio recorded call, claiming that Noah Presgrove was killed on the front porchway, a girl being involved. Does that have any correlation or link to present time of the wrongful death lawsuit filed, which incorporates some female partygoers as defendants and possibly responsible for Noah's death, and just it being a murder, a beatdown in general, as it's suggested, and the possibilities interpreted as moved from one place to another? Join me today as I try and combine it all together with the additional details of what we've heard previously and incorporating the previous map analysis I did some days ago, where it mentioned the important event of Jack Newton Avery having a verbal fight with Noah Presgrove. I've got it marked out, labelled, possible links along the way. Welcome if you are currently here during the live premiere. Share your live reactions in the chat on the right hand side of the screen at any point, and even watching later, share your additional thoughts and comments, questions, answers, anything below in the comment section. That'll help with spreading awareness of this video so more people can see it. And I think it's an important time to make these possible links. In terms of screenshots and this and that to show you what Kathy Bingham said, I can't do that because it was an audio call via on the phone, and because of the issues around it and the privacy, I don't think it can be shown public, as you will know back then when I summarised it with bullet point notes. But just know, Kathy Bingham did say it. As an absolute fact, no, but what she believes strongly, what appears to be the case. Colton's name was mentioned, but not as in he's responsible. The other person on the other end of the call, I think, brought that name up, and Kathy Bingham said, I don't think Colton is involved, but a girl is. To say but a girl is, that's said with more confidence. So where's the evidence to suggest that? And does it have any link to some of those girls like Logan, Carter, or Avery mentioned on the wrongful death lawsuit? Maybe time will tell. In the meantime, we just try and work it out together to see what could have happened with Noah, in what order, and the location as well. And possibly use photos too, which we'll get onto very shortly. If you do want to catch up though on previous videos and breaking news so you don't miss out, top right corner where the eye symbol is up there, click on it, you get the full playlist available and some loose videos too. If you want to support the channel, below in the comments, pinned message is a PayPal link, and there are super chats and super stickers too. As a heads up, PayPal, the percentage cut is a lot lower, 4 to 5%, whereas YouTube is about 30 to 40, which is crazy considering how YouTube treats creators and viewers as well. But on top of that, just want to say big shout out to Jam Sandwich, I think last night, for their super chat or super sticker, and of course Donna Bond as well, and becoming a member too on the channel. All positive to see. Live stream last night was a surprise. There was about 40 people watching. Really wasn't expecting that. I don't know what was different that time because, you know, just more people watching. But yeah, that's all good. Just try and keep the momentum going. And without further ado, let's get into today's video. Here we are. So we'll just zoom on in. We haven't got too many markers. I've narrowed it down with the one I incorporated just recently, added it back in here, trying to narrow it down to the possible motive for how an argument could have broken out, and if it involves the same people that were responsible possibly for Noah's death, then it could link on to Kathy Bingham as well in terms of the order of it. Now, we don't know the time of when Jack Avery supposed had a verbal fight with Noah, whether that was before Noah walked away, after Noah walked away, or in the process of walking away. But for it to link to Kathy Bingham's point, the argument likely should have occurred, or would have had to have occurred, probably near the front porchway upon leaving the party house in order for it to make sense. You might wonder what the other marking is down there, which we'll get to later, interpreted from what Kathy said in her own words, quoted. So, not to go in too deep or heavy, we just focus in after the shower, after the teabagging, when Noah is trying to wind down to go into to sleep like how other people supposed to be, even though how many did actually really sleep? You know, before the news of Noah's death, how many did actually sleep? But anyway, besides that, Noah supposedly going to Logan first, being rejected, and then Avery being rejected, as in wanting to sleep in one of the girls' beds, just to sleep or more, who knows, but got turned down. Did it annoy Noah completely? Maybe partially. If there was any other frustrations along the way. Like, to an extent, if Noah Presgrove got a little bit frustrated that no one would give him a ride home, it could accumulate that frustration, possibly. I know others like to badger on and obsess, saying, oh, well, the bedroom situation, it wouldn't have been enough to get Noah to walk away, or it's not the be-all and end-all. But it's like, there's additional factors you can take in mind. And others that say, Noah never walked away, Noah never walked off. And it's like, can you just ask the question? Okay, maybe he didn't walk away from the property onto the highway, but did he walk away from the house? Is that what you think? And then people don't give an answer. It's very annoying. That's why we're here. That's why I do the videos that I do, to try and make it clear as possible. Bedroom debacle is what I call it. Messy time situation. And it has been worded that Noah Presgrove insulted Avery because of being turned down, rejected. Now, if that's really the case, why didn't Noah do the same to Logan and call her out? We don't have hard evidence. It's just what partygoers people have said online as well about Noah calling Avery a fat beep, right? So maybe it got up Avery's back, annoyed her in the moment, felt maybe embarrassed or humiliated in front of others when it's her own party. She's the birthday girl. Frustration. I mean, if Avery has, you've got to understand if there was possible lightheartedness at the time, but it had been mentioned at the party that when it came to Saturday or early Sunday morning, when Avery walked in, even though it wasn't in a bedroom, I don't think, but walked on, the likes of Logan and Noah on the floor sleeping next to each other. Nothing too odd, but Avery said, if you've done anything, if I find out, I'll kill you. As in, who exactly, both of them or just Noah? Threats, but when you look back retrospectively, you look at it in a darker way, considering what happened to Noah. If nothing happened to Noah and it was all fine, that particular threat would be empty and probably be just seen as a joke. So, always got to take that on board. But if Avery can come out with certain sharp lines like that, even if Noah was just simply casually beside Logan passed out, then how would Avery react if Noah straight up insults her at her own party? And it has been worded in the case community that when Noah said what he said and then walked away, Avery chased after Noah. Is that true? If there's any chasing involved and any shouting, how come Caden Pressey did not see or hear any of it? Take in mind, Caden had said he, in the police interview at least, he went back to sleep at 3:20. Not 3:20, yeah. Yeah, it was 3:20. So what would he have seen? In the Partners in True Crime interview, it was like 3 in the morning. 3 in the morning when he went to sleep. In the police interview, 3:20. The later Caden goes to sleep, the more he could have seen and heard, the closer it's getting to the time of when Noah walked away. So it's before 3:30 when the bedroom debacle would have happened. It's also before that time as when the shower, as when the teabagging and all that took place, in whatever order it truly happened in. It could have been around 3:20 to 3:30, at least one of the events taking place in that short space of time, 10 minutes or so. And if Caden was still awake or just about to go to sleep, surely you would have seen or heard one of the events taking place when it's like a single floor building, if I'm correct in saying, to my knowledge. There might be some different rooms and there might be some doors, of course, but you'd probably still be able to hear certain sounds. It depends what other sounds are going on inside of the house, whether there's a lot of talking or not, if it's muffled or not. But I'm just surprised Caden didn't see or hear anything else. Was he a heavy sleeper? Did he pass out quick? Is there anything I can think of? And we still haven't got clarity whether Caden went to sleep at 3 a.m, went back to sleep, I should say, or if he went back to sleep 20 minutes later at 3:20 when Caden claimed, I assumed Noah was still there, but I couldn't physically see him. But Caden could see Noah at 2:42. So 2:42 is the last time of when Caden saw Noah awake, alive, and then by 3:20 he wasn't anywhere to be seen. Is that because at 3:20 Noah was in a different room trying to sleep with in one of the girls' beds? Or was it at the time when having a shower? I wonder. And that shower in which a best buddy of Noah's jumps on in with him, as Carter said as a witness, was that best buddy Brylan? Hence why when Brylan got off the furniture and Mikey being on the floor resting, he switched places or changed places himself because he had an opportunity to do so. I wonder. Depends how you look at it. Mikey on the go, moving here and there at times, and supposedly never going to sleep, just resting, and that's all. That's another fact of what we've got to acknowledge. Bedroom debacle, insults, final word said, but Avery had a piece of a mind to give to Noah, possibly Noah just walking away. Caden has said in the past it's normal for Noah to walk away when feeling frustrated or a little negative, especially when drunk. Noah walks away at 3:30. Maybe in the process, Avery follows after. Jack Newton awake at the time? Or awoken? I wonder. To then get in a verbal fight with Noah. 2 against 1, that's how it seems to come across in the court document. So you see that overall link, as I've mentioned here. How one event can lead on to the next and have a magnetizing pull to a possible verbal fight. A verbal fight in which people are somewhat intoxicated, heightened tension, emotions and feelings, a little tense, could erupt. So worth taking into mind. And maybe this is around the point of where we can add on with what Kathy Bingham had said herself, roughly in her words, that Kathy mentioned in the call that she doesn't know if Colton Newton is involved, but a girl is. And to what extent would that girl be involved in Noah's death? Moving the body, hitting Noah, outright killing him, or just participating in a beatdown alongside somebody else? Believes it's a girl, and the documents state as defendants those responsible for Noah's death in some way or another. It comes into play with Avery, Joe Combs, Joe Howard, same person, Carter Combs, Logan Jernigan, and a John or Jane Doe, which could be another party girl, possibly. That Noah Presgrove killed on the front porch, from what Kathy Bingham supposedly says. To be killed on the front porchway, I'm guessing is the same spot where Jasmine Millan was at 3:41. Because you got the patio area where the concrete is. But the porchway, up the stairs, that's it. Right outside of the door. Just seems very risky, in my opinion. But they got Noah Presgrove in a side-by-side. So we'll get to the second part, as in the removal and the disposing of Noah, the foul play, the tampering, and moving on elsewhere. We'll look at that visually on the map shortly, but what we need to do is go to ground level to the party house, or roughly in the area on ground, to visually see close enough to the lighting as well what it could have been like at the time if Noah had walked away or just got out of the door, and if an argument did take place and Noah got killed on the front porch. Whether there's a true link or not, we'll find out and theorise. To set the scene, we're looking from the outside perspective towards the party houses. If you used to take a turn off the dirt road to approach the party itself, with some vehicles already parked up. Take in consideration these particular screenshot photos are from some footage of a stranger that drove down in 2024. Whether that be at night time or early hours of the morning, I'm not too sure. But it's a case is what we can use for different footage, different perspective, and the lighting as well. to interpret it as in what Noah Presgrove could have come across, what other people would have seen or didn't see due to the darkness and any blind spots. Also, what I do want to acknowledge, which is very interesting as a heads up, that it just so happens that 2024, what can you see on here? That over there. We now know what that is. Got like a reddish reflection to it. That is the traffic barrel, which was caught on camera, and I believe in the same position or so as when the party took place in 2023, when at, what was it, 2:32 in the morning of Monday, Pepe Guam, Texas boy, stood beside it with his hand on top of it, and supposedly Mikey Lair underneath it, hiding. Just a harmless clip, that's all it was. But it kind of filled in the timeline. And it's good how that item, that object, can be visibly seen here, because I did try using other party footage to show you what it looked like and where it was, the point of view, just outside near the window frame of the window to the house. So because you can see it on ground level there, it just goes to show it's the same one from the looks of it, and roughly in the same position. And then off to the right, you will see the porch area, the door, the entranceway. And that's where the significant part is within this discussion today, theory, and based on what Kathy Bingham had said previously. That's just a bit more further to the right. There is a dog there, so I guess people had dogs at the time. That's the porchway, that's the door. You can see a little pane glass, okay? A main window as well. So understanding that if there's windows nearby, were they open? Do they open? And if they did, if anything had happened on the front porchway, surely someone, maybe some partygoers, may have overheard a commotion, a noise, any moans, any screams. Could it have been literally killed on the porch, or that's where it first started, and then dragged off elsewhere? I've suggested that possibility in the early days of if Noah had been trying to leave and then people ambushed him. But is it still far-fetched when applying to a motive? Maybe. And this is at the porchway itself. You know, you've just exited the house itself, outside, looking around you, mainly darkness. 3:41, well, Noah is missing from what Jasmine says. Wet hair, wet strands of hair, as you see, wet patches on the top. Not long ago from, I guess, the shower that Noah had, within a 10 to 15 minute range, time difference of that, and then little events in between, the bedroom debacle, arguments, Noah walking away, exiting through the front door where Jasmine Milan is, but Jasmine wasn't there at the time when Noah walked away. Jasmine, 11 minutes afterwards, went outside to take the snap. Did Jasmine specifically take the snap outside on the front porchway because she was looking for Noah? She thought, well, Noah's walked off, so he's probably come out here to cool off. I'll go onto the front porchway, pan around, see if he's there or not. He's not, so I'll take a snap and say, well, Noah's missing, and not take it too serious in the moment because it was normal for Noah to walk off, like how Caden Pressey said. It's just trying to work out the time difference of when Noah had walked away at 3:30, the timing of when that verbal fight took place with Jack, Avery and Noah, and from what Kathy Bingham says, killed on the front porchway. It just so happens that on the front porchway where she is stood later on in the day, at what time? 6:30 a.m. onwards, based on Caden's timeline, that when he was coming in or out of the party house when Renee showed up, Caden noticed that there was a big wet patch or puddle on the ground of the porch, the patio area, or the porch itself when you go up the steps where Jasmine stood on the floor. What was that water caused by? Was something cleaned up? Was DNA evidence cleaned away? But for it to still be wet, and it was, 3:30 when Noah walked away, and maybe if there was any death, killing had to have been before 3:41, or Jasmine would have walked out onto it and seen it and stepped on blood and stuff. So was it done that quickly and cleaned up as quickly? That's what I mean. You got to try and think of those time stamps and the gaps in between, the time frame window. Is it possible enough for Noah to leave at 3:30, be killed within 11 minutes or just under, and then on the porchway specifically, and then for Jasmine to come outside clueless to what's just gone on, not even knowing, and no evidence even seen? Would people be able to react and do it that quickly? Because it's coming across kind of like the Caden Pressey situation when it came to the shorts along the highway. I don't have a photo right now, but you think of the roadway area. Caden, in his timeline only, says 5:30 told to leave, ends up going with the guys leaving. And then 5:43 is when it's reported into police by Tyler Hoodman, and then 5:53 by Tyler Hardy. So from 5:30 to 5:43, would there have been enough time to get stuff done? It's a short time window. More to get done there, if anything, compared to here, maybe. Interesting. It's like, what, 13, 15 minutes time difference? But then in this particular situation, it's more of like a 10, 11 minute time difference of when Noah walks away, when Jasmine Milan goes outside. Anything happened on the porch, whereas Kathy Bingham claims, with the mention of a girl being involved, could Kathy Bingham indirectly be referring to Jasmine Milan here? No name was actually given, let's make that very clear. And also make it clear that in the court documents, Jasmine's name has not been listed either. However, a Jane or John Doe has been, and it's been regarded in some articles as multiple. So who knows, those unknown people, whether the names will be publicly shown or not at some point for clarity. But with what we're working with, we just compare, contrast, and suggest, theorise, and that is all. 341. As well, although you can't quite see it, you got Jack Newton there in, I don't know if they're white shorts or more blue, and another person in shadows. On the right, off camera on the right, is where the porch is. You can see some of the steps that go up to it and the rails. You can also see the barn shed in the background with the shutters or the gate door up in use. For what exactly? Who knows? Is that Pepe Guam in the background? It could be Pepe. Is that Pepe? I know Pepe was wearing like blue jeans or trousers. Can't remember what top, or if he was wearing a jacket or not. Maybe he took it off. He had a baseball cap, he had a beard and longish hair, so it could be Pepe, possibly. The one in the black shirt on the right, not too sure. There's Jack. Another person in the background as well. It is blurry. And then there's another person in the background on that yellow lawnmower, I think, machine. Don't know why, it was a bit random. And then, is that Carter or Avery? I always get mixed up. That was ploughing through some block or something, some wood. No big deal there. It's just a different point of view, and it's a little bit cleared up, this image, compared to maybe other party footage, which was a little bit more blurry. This is just a point of perspective. Like, you've got the patio area here on the front and the concrete ground, and off camera on the right is the porchway. The porchway is rather small, so for one or two people to be beating Noah up on the porchway is rather tight and a confined space. Can't really, do much, and we've been so close and squashed that would Noah have banged against the wall or the door? And the closer you are to the house, any noise, commotion, talk, you'd think maybe partygoers would overhear that inside. So it could still be possible a beating took place, but maybe not on the porchway. But we also need to look at what Kathy Bingham had said in the past and bring it to light now in a map analysis. Why would Kathy Bingham have the idea, or where's the evidence to suggest why it happened on the front porchway? Beside Caden Pressey mentioning about the ground being wet in Parts in True Crime interview. Because if it is wet, well, from 3:30 onwards to 6:30, there should have been enough time for it to dry up and not be remaining wet. So the wetter it is, the more recent, the more fresh, and the more recent, the more later on, and it's post-death of Noah Presgrove then, so likely it doesn't link to that. Could have been wet multiple times, who knows? What was the wetness caused by? Water, a pipe, spillages of alcohol. Could be anything really. But it's just good to look at from the different points of views on ground level with some of the images what we've got. It was mentioned that, even though you can't see it on here, in the background, the door, the pane, the glass, that there was a Ring a doorbell camera somewhere on that door, and that camera could have picked up anything, so it could reinforce back up what Kathy Bingham had said, or it could go against her. However, the camera supposedly wasn't working at the time, just like all the others, which might be convenient for some people, and most unfortunate for everybody else trying to learn. Ring a doorbell camera, it would have made or braked the claim of, at some point post disappearance of Noah, where Avery and Carter were on the front porchway as well, arguing with one another, whether that be Justin or Caden rewording it, mentioning it in one of the parts in True Crime interviews. It was highlighted that a guy, or maybe a person, was outside standing somewhere and recording it, which seems a little bit interesting, as if, were they recording it because they felt it could be of use in the future, because they knew what's already happened, so they needed to document it as proof or evidence to defend, save, protect themselves, to possibly pin the blame onto them and for it to be taken out of context. What was the blaming about anyway? No context given. Any hard evidence to back it up and show publicly? Nope. And it's not really come up in discussion since either. So that's kind of fallen flat, but I thought I'd bring that up right now. If you're in the chat, you can let me know your thoughts, whether it exists or not. And if it did, what would the blaming and argument have come about? Would it been the sisters having a go at one another because Noah's not present, he's gone missing, and it's like, well, you know, if you allowed Noah in the bed, he wouldn't have walked away. And then the other person could be blaming the other person back, saying, yeah, but if you did this, or if you didn't do that, or if you said this, or you said that, then it would have been different. Back and forth, blaming each other in the moment, here at the moment, is understandable. Or could it have been more serious, as in one or the other knows what happened? Would it link to Kathy Bingham's claim of the front porchway area? That's some of us, yeah, we'll get to those later. Front porchway area, sisters having a go at one another, same spot where it all happened with Noah and Kathy Bingham. When she says a girl is involved, is that girl involved one of the two sisters arguing with one another on the porchway? A lot of questions, not enough answers, but might as well just throw them out there whilst we're here. In terms of other images, this is just basically off camera, more further back, panned to the left. So over that way, there appears to be a vehicle parked up in the dirt road. So you're going to be facing south. That's facing south over there, south towards the other field. And then off to the left would be west, heading towards the highway and the railroad tracks. What I'd like to know is, whilst granted it might show there the corner of the house where the light is, top corner, where Carter's stood there on the patio, it will be towards the corner of the party house there. Can you see that line? In that spot there on the patio. And the camera's panned facing this direction of where the person's coming from. So you're looking over that way. Take in mind that this was not taken the same time as that. That's 2023, that's 2024. That's 2023, 23, 2024, 24, okay? Just so you don't get mixed up. But the reason why I want to highlight it is, if there's a light there, as a question, where is that light coming from? Is it a reflection? But what would it be reflecting off? I just don't remember seeing any lamps or light posts going down the dirt road. It was just all black to my knowledge. The only big lamp you had, or a light post or lamp post, would have been in between the, I wonder if we can get it on screen. Maybe. It was in between the patio area, the roofing, and then the shed, the barn in the background. Just over there in the darkness where Brylan Sweat was running away at 1:05 in the morning after slapping Noah Presgrove. There is a bright light as well up there. I don't know if that bright light is the lamp post, what I'm talking about in the background, but it appears to be a bit too low down, that. So that could possibly be someone holding maybe a torch, a light. But yeah, you had that big lamp in the near to the pasture, round the back, in between the shed and the patio area. We're talking about illumination, what illuminates the area nearby, how much glows and shines in the darkness, because depending which way Noah went or where he may have died or possibly got beaten down at? How close was it to the house? Noise proximity. And how far was it away? Distance and visual aspects. If anyone was present to see. If anyone was in the house and looking through the windows. But if anyone can explain, what is that light back there, facing south, towards the field? Is it a reflection by the phone? But reflecting off what? Yeah, there appears to be maybe a vehicle or a side-by-side parked up on the ground, on the grass or on the dirt road, but it's much higher up, kind of in the sky. But it looks so bright, like a light, a lamp, and the circular beam kind of looks similar to what you see there. But looking ahead in the distance, there's nothing really to reflect it off of, I don't think. You let me know what your thoughts are, because you've got to take in mind that's more so south, and you see the dirt road there, and then off to the left will be the road heading down east. But there's, as dark as it is, if that light was still there, it's kind of bright enough to see to a certain distance of if Noah was walking away, if anyone was going in that direction or following after him. Maybe you would have seen to a certain distance. Let's take in mind it was Jack Newton that said on Parts in True Crime that it was Logan Jernigan to last see Noah walk away. Why Logan? Does that have anything to do with Kathy Bingham saying a girl was involved? Does it have anything to do... the other thing what I want to say, 3:41, if Logan Jernigan was the one to see Noah walk away at what, 3:30? Did Logan see anyone just before or after follow after Noah? I wonder. That would help a lot. And how long did Logan stay on the front porch way watching Noah walk away heading east? Was she still out there once like 11 minutes was up and Jasmine Millan came out? If Logan was the person to see Noah walk away, did Logan then inform others and then Jasmine, and then Jasmine passed it on and then did a snap? In what order exactly? It'd be good to break it down, the order of how things went, the timing, the true timing of it, with the time frame window of when walking away and when there was a witness or potential witness, if anything was to have happened, who was on the front looking about, panning around. Is anyone there? Is Noah present? How far away was Noah at the time of when Jasmine Millan was on the front porchway? Because it would be a scary thought, I'm not saying that's the case, it'd be a scary thought if just over there in the distance, in the dark, Noah's body was flat on the ground. But would anyone, if there was a beatdown, would anyone just leave the body lifeless there and walk off or go back to the party? I don't think so. If there was a beatdown and if there was foul play, you'd think people would act somewhat swiftly, because it's at a party and there's other people present. Some people may come and go from the party. Others may just come outside to get some air and breathe. You don't want to be hanging around with a dead body, right? You want to get on, move on. And you get an idea from that angle and perspective that when you're towards the dirt road, which is where it was taken from, as if you're approaching the party house, when looking off to the side, which is looking, what would I call it? Kind of like well, it's like north, you could argue a little northwest, depending which way you're angled. And look how dark the ground is there. It's pitch black. Can you see a body there? Or would you be able to at the time? Probably not. It's just darkness. You scroll back up, then you've got the light. So if it can be that dark at a short distance, and depending what lighting you've got at the time, you've only been able to see Noah walk so far off and then fade into darkness. Did anyone think it was a bad idea though? Unless, well, if they're used to Noah just walking away, then might be the regular. But the only question that I would say, okay, Caden has seen Noah walk away at other parties and it's very common. But at other parties, was it common that the party house was near to a highway, in a desolate area, limited, lacking cameras, surveillance, and near a railroad track? Does it differ or is it similar? If it's similar, then it shouldn't be a big deal. If it's different environment, could be a bit more vulnerable when by yourself. Depends how you look at it. And of course, round the back, even less lighting, the pasture. You can hardly see anything. Kathy Bingham did say or suggest that once Noah was killed on the front porchway, was then loaded up in, I believe, the side-by-side or a side-by-side round the back, the pasture area. The side-by-side rollover occurred, from what Jack says, at the pasture round the back. So unless the side-by-side remained there, and then that's why if Noah killed on the front porchway, then dragged round the back of the house into the darkness, loaded up, and then driven off. But did anyone at any time hear any vehicle sounds? And if anyone was to load Noah up on a side-by-side which is owned by Jack, how did they obtain the keys? Well, earlier Noah obtained the keys supposedly by going into the bedroom of Carter's, which Jack was sleeping in with Carter, and Noah got the keys off from where they were hung up somewhere and was able to. After that incident, and I guess what, Jack obtained the keys again, where would they put? Put back, hidden, in the pocket. So how would anyone else who may be involved in Noah's death, killing on the porchway to then load Noah in the back of a side-by-side, was able to get a hold of Jack's keys then? Asking Jack directly, can I borrow your vehicle? And then making up an excuse as to why they want to use it. Or, as outsiders could suggest, is there any chance that it was Jack directly because he's in ownership of the keys and he's also alongside with Avery at the time of when an argument took place verbally with Noah, and it was a verbal fight which could have escalated one thing to another. But any verbal fights, verbal arguments loud enough, if it's near to the house and if killed on the front porchway tied in with Kathy Bingham's suggestion, surely someone would have heard it, and because no one did, is it more likely that it just didn't happen? Got to acknowledge it, I know. And then furthermore, this is looking much more northeast, more northwest, where you've got the front porchway over there. That's why it's illuminated a bit more, because of the light source and coming from inside, I believe, where Jasmine Millan stood. Jasmine Millan stood over there on the front porch, looking towards us on the screen, looking towards the tree. Take in mind the tree, that can block out quite a bit of light too. You look at the ground area as well, it's pitch black, at least at that time it was, whether that be early hours of the morning or late at night. So the darker the ground, the more you could blend in. Yes, we've had the spirit sessions, maybe card readers that said about the significance of the tree. It needs to be checked or searched, whether that be the bark, the trunk, the ground itself, the terrain, that there could be evidence there, or that there was. That's where Noah either died or was killed at, as it was suggested in the past. You got the row of vehicles parked up as well, in which at the time there was more, because if we look back at some of the party footage, oh no, we don't have it unfortunately, but from the party footage, you see a handful of those vehicles parked up on the left. There was a row of them, more I believe than what you see there. There was like maybe 4 or 5. So if you've got a row of vehicles lined up, that's going to add a bit of a blind spot to what you can see over in the distance. Add in the limitations of lighting, but yeah, you can walk away, you can fade off into darkness, and then something could happen. But you would still possibly hear sounds, and we've not really heard anyone report on sounds. In the Dylan Rounds case, we were trying to figure out, was there any gunshots? Because if, Dylan Rounds was shot multiple times in the head, was there anybody nearby as witnesses that overheard gunshots in the distance? Could that have given it away? It would have been hard to determine what it was at the time, because it being so open, people allowed to shoot guns out there, and people hunting as well. People could brush it off as nothing. Would people brush it off as nothing at a party, though? Well, there was shooting earlier on in the Ford Ranger. You had Brylan, you had Caden, you had Noah, you had Brylan, Isaac driving about shooting animals. If anyone at the party house heard that and knew about the event, they may have thought, oh, it's probably just happening again, no big deal, not the end of the world. That in itself earlier didn't trigger any reactions or any calling of the police. Oh, gunshots fired, we need to take action. No one took action. So if similar sounds occurred, which likely not, because there's no bullet holes on Noah. There was a theory last night suggesting, was Noah Presgrove possibly forced to go somewhere, or forced in the side-by-side possibly, and then finished off elsewhere, held at gunpoint? There's no firearms at the party maybe, But out of all the partygoers who would have used their firearm, I know we only know 3 firearms from what Caden had said. I don't know of any others with firearms or the models. You had Brylan with a hunting rifle, Isaac 12-gauge shotgun. But supposedly Brylan, Isaac were asleep or at least resting at the time and was static inside. Jack Newton, who knows? Jack Newton has his thermal AR-15 rifle. Could that have been used? It's a theory, not used to attack Noah, but used to threaten, to get him somewhere. Take in mind, the documents do say that Noah was promised lots of alcohol, copious amounts, and interpreted, or externally interpreted as, was almost like forced more alcohol on top of already being intoxicated. Was that done to make him as vulnerable as possible so anyone could do anything to him? Depends how you look at that. But it is dark, and you get a different view of the angles coming and going from the party house, and like with Noah walking away. I mean, just a simple thought. Did Noah Presgrove, when walking away, possibly follow the dirt road, or did he cut across the grass area? Is there a back door around the party house? Do we know if Noah went through the back door or the front door? We don't have any footage of the pasture. All we've got is the satellite imagery. So let's just head back on over to that. Here we are back with the satellite imagery. So when you get the idea of the tree, what we looked at there, on ground level here, flip the image if it will allow me. And that's kind of like what we were looking at just before. Diagonal to the party house, limited in distance range. That's the lamppost as you see there with the shadow effect illuminating round the area here. The pasture round the back. In regard to how much distance was the pasture from a fence line, is there a fence line at the pasture which leads onto the back of the field? Where would it be? Kind of hard to say. I mean, running all the way down there, you can see a fence. Let's see if we can get it on screen as an example. Some of it is covered by vegetation, making it hard, but there is a row down there, all the way down in parallel to the overhead lines. There is like a barbed wire fence, but covered by vegetation. I'm just wondering, in the distance over that way, is there any vegetation? And to be honest with you, I don't know when this was taken, and I've only just noticed it now. I don't know if anyone else has. Round the back, the pasture, there's a patio area as well. I've never known that before. You know what? Do I do a screenshot right now, or do I do a separate video about it? You know what? We'll do a we'll include it right now. I'll just take a screenshot and then I'll edit it up in just a second, and we'll transition back on over it to add on with the pasture and the disposing of Noah's body, and then heading down the highway that way. There's a fence line, I think, on the other side of the railroad track. I've just noticed that there is a fence there which you can't see. Can you see those fence posts covered by vegetation? It's a bit hard to see. That's what I mean. I'm not too sure how it's divided. So down the dirt road, there's fencing, and then you got the field. But then further down that way on the right-hand side, there could be a bit of fencing, a small backyard area, and then it goes onto the field north, which is still accessible, but in terms of where the side-by-side was at, was that on the field, the north field, or was it just before the fencing on the pasture area, if that's worded correctly? There seems to be a handful of stuff in the distance down there which I've not really picked up on, but then it looks like there could be a vehicle parked up round the back of the party house, whilst, yes, this was taken at a different time and probably after 2023, could be wrong, not relevant to the party, but in terms of what's there compared to what wasn't at some point, does it tell any type of story whatsoever? Can we get a different angle maybe, just whilst we're here? Actually, best get a screenshot before I forget, because I do believe I'm looking at the right thing. Just move it over there. Not as good, but we'll do it anyway, just in case. If only they had back in time for Street View on Google Earth specifically. I don't think there's any other way of looking. Not really. Okay. Get back out of that for a second. So if by any chance, and it might be hard to believe, that under the patio area, the front porchway, Noah Presgrove, confronted by Jack and Avery, verbal argument, disagreement, backfires, escalates, physicality. Did Avery do anything or lightly do anything to Noah? Hence why Kathy Bingham said a girl is involved. Take in mind the reference of a girl being involved doesn't have to mean the outright murder of Noah. It could mean being a witness and watching and allowing it to happen and not speaking up afterwards. Or it could also mean or participating in the removal of Noah's body and moving it onto the highway. Because if it was to happen on site of the property, the fact that the body was found on the highway, well then there's definitely foul play. So that's what we can at least confirm based on a theory that, yeah, it's a fact that Noah was found on the highway, but if by any chance he died on site at the party house property, can't be in two places at once, was moved on. And it's going to be a fact that it would be foul play based on that. You don't just magically die here and then get transported over there and float about and no one else is involved. I'm just still wondering, would there have been a commotion, noise, party goes inside, seeing or hearing anything whatsoever, any bumping or banging outside? And then either directly on the front porchway or even nearby onto the ground area. Why taken round the back, the pasture area, as Kathy Bingham suggests, because that's where the nearest vehicle is available. Side by side. The same side by side that Noah used earlier, and if so, where were the keys? Who had the keys at the time? If it's got anything to do with the timing of Noah walking away, Jack's in possession of the keys finally, Avery present as well, something happens with him or anyone else getting involved in between, and then it's like, right, well, I've got the keys, let's head around back of the house, pasture area, right here, and then begin moving about to the highway. And this is where we can transition onto that photo what I said we were going to analyse. So I've tried refining it. It looks grainy, but it was blurry anyway in the first place, and it is zoomed in, so it's not going to be great quality, but I did it on purpose just from that point of view that is the pasture back there. You can see an overhanging roof too, which is the same as on the front. So you've got a patio on the front, you've got a patio on the back, yet we never saw any party footage from round the back or round the pasture, where there was also like a swimming pool, there was decking as well. How come that wasn't utilised, or at least recorded in any of the snaps? I don't get that. Why was it not used? Does anyone know? But in terms of this outdated or irrelevant screenshot, because it doesn't link to the party, but it is of the location, it may not show us clear now, but there appears to be some kind of object round the back, the pasture. And it's probably one of those things where the more zoomed in it is, the less likely it is a vehicle, or the less it looks like one. But when zoomed out, to me, I just thought, is that a pickup truck or a side-by-side? It's just a coincidence because of what we're talking about today. You let me know what you think it could be, anything significant or not. On the front area, not much there, not really much showing or telling. But yeah, being taken round the back, and yet there's a window. You can see there's clearly a window round the side. So if Jack, Avery, or anyone else was taking Noah round the back and loading him onto the side-by-side, is that before or after washing him off of DNA? Because there's touch-based DNA, right, as people would suggest. And there's tampering, moving of a body, either you're going to move the body, touch, and then wash it all down after, or you might wear gloves in the process to cover your prints. It's got to be one or the other, or maybe even both. So to get round the back, quiet, carrying Noah, more than one person maybe, or dragging, and if so, could that possibly link on to why one of Noah's shoes at least had, because mismatched shoes at the time were worn by Noah supposedly. Was there any any debris, grass pieces within the inside of the shoelace, I wonder? And, to be honest, when it comes to the blood and the blood loss, was there any blood whatsoever stained on Noah's body or shorts or shoes, mismatched or not? Any blood splatters, trails anywhere on the body, or dried blood as well? Because if you were killed in one spot and then you were leaking out blood, but then you were quickly moved or shortly moved on to elsewhere and then placed down, and then more blood leaks out, any earlier existing blood which may have remained on your body may have dried by now, whilst the rest is still pouring out. I don't know, I'm not an expert, but if some blood was dried and other blood was fresh, it could possibly suggest that one came first before the other, and there's a bit of time in between. That is there any possibility from one place to another? Look, I'm looking at it from all different perspectives. We're just currently in this phase at the moment. I guess the light side can't be complaining for once, can they? But it's just trying to tie it in line with the court documents and see if there's any link whatsoever. But getting into a vehicle at a certain point, did anyone recall hearing vehicle sounds, starting of an engine, lights being turned on at 3:41 onwards? But what time? Before 4:30 at least. Maybe at the max 4 in the morning or 4:10, because it was mentioned supposedly for at least 30 minutes. About 4 in the morning onwards, that's when partygoers went out searching for Noah and even went down the highway up to a certain point. Does any of that link in with this? Is there yet another time frame window what we've got to be cautious of? Back to the maps once again from the perspective of what we were looking at down here at this point marker, kind of diagonal of the pasture, which, why is it doing that? Which is of there, which may have been a vehicle. At the time of the party, supposedly a vehicle still being there. I mean, the side by side, when it rolled over and people flipped it back on the correct way, was it left where it was, around the pasture? And that's why it went round the back of the people, from what Kathy claims. And then getting onto the dirt road, little donut area, and driving down east to the highway, turning north, all the way down to the spot roughly, and then unloading Noah and placing him along the side of the hard shoulder here. Now, because Noah had road rash, as it's described, the road as in here, where contact's made with the skin, the body on the rough surface, making me think, if Noah was to be dumped here, when he was removed out of the side-by-side, was he gently taken out? Was he roughly taken out? Was he dropped on the floor accidentally? Was he carried along and then placed down? Or was his body dragged like a piece of meat? And if being dragged by one arm, more dominant on one side, the left, as an example, being scraped along where most of the road rash was, on the back area and kind of the side, is that how he could have been dragged? Some kind of friction made with the ground, whether that be falling out of a vehicle with the accident theory, what we've mentioned in the past, or it would be a darker concept of murder possibly, followed up with foul play of moving the body on and staging it as something else. If the body was to be moved by someone or some people, the motive or the theme, it would have to be to stage it as something else, because no attempt was made, supposedly, to create a burial or a hole. There's that at least. So, would that mean if it's a straight up murder, would the people purposely and consciously bury the body somewhere? If it's an accident or something gone a bit too far and gone wrong and gone bad, they didn't anticipate or want the outcome to be death upon their friend, that instead of burying the body because they feel guilty, but also they're worried about themselves and they don't know what to do, that instead they just think, right, we'll just place the body out in the open but away from the house so then it doesn't trace back to us, supposedly. But even if anything of like that nature happened, there's not been any touch-based DNA on the body, meaning if anyone had moved Noah, were they wearing gloves? Was there a sheeting or a tarp used to roll Noah's body on and then either wash him off at the party house to then carry the tarp, load it in the side-by-side with Noah on top and drive down to here, park up somewhere and carry him out and then roll him off the tarp and then he collected on the ground? But where would the road rash come from, though? Would you get road rash and those markings on the back area if Noah had died, was killed at the party house property on grass or on a dirt road? Would you get road rash in that area? Yes or no? With that environment? Because if not, then it would mean something would have had to have happened at the highway for those injuries to be caused on the back area as a suggestion. Okay, you got the patio area where it's like concrete, but it's rather smooth there. Not much friction. Whereas here, asphalt, the ground, it's rough, it's rugged, friction and movement dragged along would cause the visible injuries and damage to the skin, surface level more so. But because there's no touch-based DNA, or not that it's been even acknowledged in the autopsy report, it makes me think that people would have had to have worn gloves. It's okay saying that Noah's body was washed off, hence why there's no DNA. Yeah, washed off at the party house, not washed off at the highway. You get what I'm saying? So whilst you have washed the DNA and evidence off earlier, the moment you then lay your hands upon Noah to pick up and then drop off here, you've put your prints back onto the body. You put your evidence back onto him. And from the report and all that, the autopsy, there was no touch-based DNA. So either that means that Noah was never tampered or moved with from place to place, or if it did happen, people were wearing gloves or were very careful. I think it might have been Brenda last night when responding, adding on to my point about any tarps or sheets being used to transport, to carry like a blanket, wrap Noah up from place to place, concealed and trying to avoid touch-based DNA, that there would be maybe fibres, fragments, loose bits that have stuck or on Noah at the time, depending on the quality and the aging of the sheeting as well. Thought I'd just add that in. Right, are we facing north? We are now. So Kathy Bingham mentioned about, got into the side-by-side, loaded Noah up, as in dead, around the pasture, and then laid him out. And that's all that she said. And I'm interpreting as laid him out as in, well, you've just got him in the vehicle. To then lay him out would mean to get him back out. And for Noah to be at the highway, probably drove down there and then laid him out there. In terms of the timing of that all, the time frame window possibly of when Noah was supposedly killed, front porch way or not, around 3:30 onwards. Noah's body would have had to have been away from the front porch at least by 3:41, because Jasmine Millan came outside on that area and spot and did not see or hear anything. 3:30 to 4 in the morning, that's the time frame window supposedly, because 4 in the morning onwards is when a search was supposedly done by party goers, and Texas boys were giving the girls lifts about when driving around looking for Noah, and one of the searches supposedly took place down the highway north at the first sandplank crossing, this spot here. People say, well, if they came down here, phone pings, geofence, GeoNet proves that, then it shows that they're suspicious or maybe involved in Noah's death or involved in moving Noah's body from place to place. My response to those people is, yes, you come down here at a later time, acting as if you may care just to be out there looking, so it shows a level of innocence maybe. First sandplank crossing, and what? Where's Noah's body? Oh, further down that way. Is it dark? Likely. Why? Because there's no lighting at all besides the headlamps of your vehicle, which will only cover a certain distance down the roadway. So if you're down at the sandplank crossing, Noah's body is down there, you're not going to see the body from this distance. So even if party goers, suspicious or not, drove down to this particular spot, they wouldn't have been able to see beyond. If phone pings ping specifically in this area where we're at, it's not at where the body was. So it's not completely significant, right? And then turning back and heading back to the party. Now, there was that mention of a witness who the friend spoke on behalf of them that one time on Facebook. Was it, what time was it? Was it like 5 in the morning or so, roughly? I could be wrong. Like, there was a woman going to work, going south and along the highway, came across a side-by-side with lights shot out of nowhere. Was that tied in line with where Noah was then dropped off, or was that too late on in the day? Who knows, because no one was identified in the side-by-side or where it truly came from. It's a bit of a mystery, that, and as to how true it is, well, the witness hasn't spoken. Witness hasn't given an update since. It was just a friend that spoke loosely once, which really doesn't do much good. Did they ever reach out to police about it? I don't know. Sometimes these casual passing conversations and points made online just fade away and Sometimes it could be very important, but not enough actions done, and it makes you question. So you let me know, do you think there's any link whatsoever with what's mentioned in the court documents compared to what was mentioned by Kathy Bingham over the call with a member of the general public in regard to Ken Pressey and other details of the case? With that being said, hopefully you found the video somewhat interesting. Try to incorporate photos and ground view shots as well. If there was additional party footage and camera angles and perspectives and stuff that could have been used, I would, but we are dealing with limited material, and it tends to be a bit of a theme with quite a few cases that I look at with time, but it is what it is. If you want to hit the thumbs up, share the video, that'd be much appreciated. Get more people to see it, and we'll see where it goes, this particular video, and anything else in between. As for additional videos, they can be done. I just need to look back at the notes and see what needs to be done next. If you've got any possible suggestions or ideas of maybe things that could be looked at within the case, you could leave a comment down below and we'll go from there. But my name's Warlike Raf. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.